Welcome into the OBR streaming network. This is another edition of All Eyes on Cleveland. My name is Brad Ward. Welcome. I see you filing into the chat. Thanks for joining us tonight. MC Drew, you guys coming on in. Hope you got your degenerate hats on and your fantasy football questions ready. And we should have a guest later on in the show. As Zack Jackson is scheduled to join us later. He was at camp today, so we'll get a update on everything Vikings-Browns joint practice. The man next to me is Casey Kinnaman. Follow him on X at Casey_Kinnaman. What is happening, Case, dog?
You know, just living vicariously through a bunch of clips, trying to piece together everything that happened today in these joint practices, and wishing the damn injury bug would just leave us alone, man.
Yeah. Well, let's bring on our first guest here. These are a couple gentlemen that I have known for a bit now, and I very much enjoy. I am a Patreon of their channel. They have recently become more famous. I saw you guys' wonderful billboard. Where was the billboard at?
Yeah, ran a little billboard down in downtown Las Vegas. For people who were coming out for Circa to either do contest weekend or we were out there for Bet Bash. Figured it would be a good time, get the old name out there. So yeah, that was awesome, and yeah, continue to grow bit by bit here. But yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean, stacking the money green on the left. Follow him on at Sean T Green on X, and of course Ryan, Real Money Kramer at Kramer Centric on X. The gentleman I go to for all of my gambling needs and degenerate needs. But no, seriously, you guys are killing it. On VSiN all the time, out in Vegas, back and forth to your studio. So congratulations on all your success. It's inspirational. So
yeah, no,
good
I
job,
mean, absolutely proud to be a part of your gambling group chat. Everyone has that shady chat where you just share the bets you weren't really supposed to place, but you placed them anyway.
Yeah,
you just want to that. That's who we are. We're happy to be that for anyone.
We are there in your time of need.
Absolutely. Drew in Brick City wants to know, what is Bet Bash?
Yeah, so it's just basically a bunch of dudes get together in some conferences, and instead of
it's like that dream work thing where you have the permission slip to go to Vegas for a conference.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Bunch of like-minded betting individuals.
Yeah, if you're just like a hardcore gambler or just getting into gambling, it's fun. You're just chatting it up with a bunch of other degenerates, and yeah, they have an awards dinner for the Sports Gambling Hall of Fame, which is like bookies honoring bookies. It's
Billy Walters was in the
Billy
room.
Walters,
pretty awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends. You might not be like super deep sports gambling history wise, but there's some cool things. And then yeah, we did a live podcast there. That was fun. A bunch of just open bar events and just good reason to kind of hang out in Vegas.
Very cool. I am planning on coming to Vegas. I think it's week 4 for the Browns and Raiders. So
nice.
Looking forward to seeing you guys there then and meeting IRL, as the kids say. Right?
No, I mean, honestly, we see it, going out to Vegas every Friday. You see the different fan bases come in to square off against the Raiders. And yeah, I'm sure Cleveland is going to be bringing the dog pound. Teams in the Midwest definitely show up. Packers, Cleveland, like I said, sure going to show up. Steelers, Eagles, when they played out there, it was a good time. So yeah, it's always great to see like the fan bases descend on the city of Las Vegas.
Sean, I didn't realize the Eagles were on right now. I'm so sorry for having you on my show right when the Eagles are on.
Well, we already got the joint practice happened. I may also be watching the live updates on my laptop, and then of course I have taped the game. So we break down a bunch of game film from the preseason anyway. So I will see it all. But yeah, now with joint practices, it does the preseason not quite as exciting as some previous years.
All right. Yeah. Joint practices for the Browns today. I wanted to have you guys on. You guys did a great job with your Browns preview. I thought I really had no complaints this year. Last
Okay.
year I was a little fired up, but I thought you guys did well this year. It was good stuff. So 8.5 win total. What did you guys come up with for your win total for the Browns?
Well, and shockingly, I mean, and this was really just driven off my love of Jameis Winston, but I was much higher on the Browns than I fully expected to. And yeah, I mean, sitting with a very discounted number, I ended up on 10-7. Sean, what did you end up with?
Yeah, no, I also got him to 10-7. I mean, this defense, especially at home, is always going to be a tough out. Going to be in the mix division wise. I mean, you guys know, like, it's the stuff that can hamper them. Maybe Deshaun Watson, but I think they've even showed versions where Deshaun Watson, maybe he's not living up to the contract or that hype, but they still are able to grind out wins. I mean, hard not to take the hat off to Stefanski. I mean, right there, you look at like the coaching situation. You got Stefanski, you got Mike Vrabel coming in as just like a special assistant. I think that's got to be helpful. So
and that video of Vrabel and Winston
racing each other
sums up why I love the Browns this season.
Yeah.
Same.
I mean, Mike Vrabel is a guy I always like betting on. Bring him onto the team, and Myles Garrett there still obviously a huge part of your D line. Him to have the most sacks to lead the league, it's chalky, but a 5-1 I think is pretty interesting.
Yeah, the energy that those two bring just themselves is pretty remarkable. His knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone. Deshaun Watson's gonna turn it on. It was pretty awesome.
He just lights up the media. He lights up the room.
Yes.
Like, you got to imagine that has an effect on a football team.
Yeah. So he is actually not going to play on Saturday. So they're going to go Snoop, Huntley, and then DTR in the second half, sitting both the starter and the backup this week after practice with the Vikings ended today. So a couple questions. Any best bets that came out of there that you really guys liked? Specialized bets that could be on the Browns. I know you guys like to find some good ones for every team. What did you have for the Browns?
I mean, for me, it was simple. Murray Cooper.
Yeah,
it does seem like once again, he tends to play through injury. He tends to be out there. He tends to be quarterback proof. And so no matter what the situation is, you look at the number this year, 975.5. Hard to imagine a scenario that doesn't involve him missing multiple games where he doesn't get to that number. Yeah. We saw last year he got to 1250 in not exactly what you would call a great situation. Yes, sir. Joe Flacco worked out in the end, but for him to run back even just a 1,200-yard season seems very, very fine to me in 15 games. So 975.5 just seems a little bit low for Cooper.
Yeah, I like that as well. I did give out the Myles Garrett most sacks, lead the league at 5-1. That feels like a good price. And then Kramer had this one that I'm also on board with. But
how dare you?
Jameis Winston to lead the AFC North in passing yards. Now, just here, Ryan, make the case, because if Deshaun Watson, if the shoulder's not totally healthy,
the case is if we all get our dreams and Jameis Winston plays a bunch of games this year, let's call it 12.
Yeah.
You already have Joe Burrow here. We're hearing about the arm. We know Lamar he's good for at least 2 bouts with COVID.
He always is getting sick.
Still.
And the Steelers situation, I mean, it's Arthur Smith. They're going to run the ball more than they pass it. Jameis Winston, he's literally the only guy in the 30-30 club. He threw for almost 5,000 yards. I think they did throw for 5,000 yards that year.
Yeah.
I mean, and we saw what it looks like when they cook with gas with Joe Flacco. I mean, Jameis is kind of the same guy as Joe Flacco. Maybe you could even say more athletic.
Probably better. Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, it's obviously a silly bet, but these markets, the fact that they put the backup quarterbacks
200-1 just to lead the AFC North. So
I like it.
Fun. kind of a fun long shot, and you got to have one tiny, like we call them like a pizza bet. One, whatever you're spending on a small like pie or whatever. You got to have some sort of positive bet on Jameis Winston because
imagine the sweat when he gets in there.
Yeah, come on.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I got to throw down, something on that. That's crazy. I can't believe it's even on the books. That's wild that it's even listed. All right, so Casey, you said you had some questions. This is Casey, my co-host.
What's up,
Casey Kinnaman. Hey, Casey, you had some questions about the betting markets, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to point out any season that Jameis has started over 14 games, he's thrown for 4,000 yards. So if he gets on the field enough times, he's going to put up the yardage. That's just who he is. But I'm always fascinated with like futures bets. So if you guys were to pick one player not named Patrick Mahomes to win regular season MVP, who would you guys go with?
It's a great question.
Well, you going to be a homer here?
I mean, certainly Jalen Hurts as an Eagles fan, you can 100% make the case. Like, so Casey, when you're breaking down the awards market, especially MVP, like almost 10 times out of, if you look back at the past winners, obviously it's always going to be a quarterback, but then even narrow it down a little bit more, who has a chance to be the number one seed? Like a lot of times it just goes to whoever the number one seed is for the quarterback position. That's who ends up becoming MVP. You saw it last year with Lamar Jackson, where it was kind of a split field. I had Christian McCaffrey 200-1 last year, and that was probably like the perfect scenario where he was in it for MVP, and then Brock Purdy had that really bad game, and he might have had a shot, but then Lamar ended up having that good game, padded some stats there against the Dolphins, and that's really what sold me on the idea of like, don't even waste the money on anyone outside the quarterback position, and I would just kind of compare it to the odds for the number one seed. And that's a good way to kind of maybe shake out some value. Jalen Hurts at 15-1. Obviously I'm going to be in on that. The prices has shifted a bit here. But Anthony Richardson, if you're high on the Colts, making a little bit of a run, him at like a longer shot, 35-1's interesting. And then I would say, as much as I've clowned this guy a ton over the years, Jared Goff in the mid range at like 20-25-1. If you compare it, and I obviously shop around, you can probably find a better Jared Goff price. But if you just compare Detroit's odds to be the number one seed versus Detroit's versus Jared Goff MVP odds, it's a really good value there. And you look at like the number of games they play in a dome this year, he's gonna rack up a shit ton of numbers. They have a very good offensive line. So yeah, I would say Hurts, obviously, makeup year for 2022 when he probably should have won the MVP. And then Goff is pretty interesting, especially if you look at how many times he plays in a dome.
Yeah,
Brian, what do you
Kramer?
got?
I mean, honestly, when you look at these odds and just the existence of Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, some of these quarterbacks who it does feel like a little bit of a stretch to actually bring it home, Jared Goff makes a lot of sense. I think you have to go back to 2014 Aaron Rodgers, the last time someone won the MVP, not as the one seed. But Goff, we've seen this number come down a ton, as Sean's saying. You can still find some 35-1s out there. It does seem very much. We discussed this in our team in some of the team previews for the other North teams, but it seems odd to me that Detroit is not a heavier favorite to win their division. When you compare the prices, it does seem like his MVP price is out of whack, and part of that is because it's Jared Goff. Yeah, there's a stigma to Jared Goff.
I've made fun of Jared Goff a ton.
We named an island.
Yeah, Jared Goff sucks island. I was ahead of the curve, knowing that he sucked, and then I was behind the curve, admitting that he's actually, I don't know if he's still like great, but it's just the perfect situation. Mm-hmm. And going back to it, the Detroit Lions are 6-1 to be number one in the NFC. So if they're the number one seed at 6-1. He's going to be getting a lot of looks there at MVP. And if you can find that 35-1 MVP, that to me is a nice difference in price and nice value. If you don't want to bet on Patrick Mahomes, which is not that fun.
No, it's not. So I had a couple that I grabbed, or just throwing out there. See what you guys think about the Browns, and then we'll move off of this. But Cooper, most yards in the division at 4-1. is interesting. I think it's him and
Chase.
Yeah.
Chase. That's it, right?
I mean, I guess
And
Pickens is in there, but
yeah, you can
I
throw
mean,
Pickens in there.
the
It's
numbers.
interesting though.
Yeah, I would say that's a good that's a good angle, especially if you think that maybe something is wrong with Burrow. We've seen before he's not exactly always able to play through stuff, and you have the offensive coordinator who left for Tennessee,
Yeah.
so I do think fading that situation is good, and I don't see it's hard to imagine there's anyone else there. And from what I've heard from Browns land, it seems like there's not exactly a ton of confidence in the rest of the receivers. So Cooper getting fed a lot seems likely.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. To Kramer's point, I think he's going to get you that. I mean, first off, Jamar Chase still has to compete with T. Higgins. Now, if T. Higgins plays an entire season, you could see that maybe eating away some of Jamar Chase's yards. And it does seem like, they may be throwing to the tight end a little bit more. Some of their running backs, they might want to involve in the passing game a little bit more. Chase isn't. I don't think it's going to have a massive impact, but he's not in training camp right now. He's holding out for a new deal, and the Bengals notoriously start slow. So yeah, you add all those factors up. Amari Cooper racking up some receiving yards, which we're high on already. 4-1. Yeah, I definitely see the case.
And then the other one is, I mean, you got to throw this out there. I don't know how many games he's going to play, but Nick Chubb, comeback player of the year, 9-1. It's got to be in play, right?
We broke down this market, and since we announced, or since the NFL announced they wouldn't be rewarding like just bad players with the comeback player.
Stupid. That's so stupid. Anymore. I hate that change.
You get rid of most of the guys who are in competition, and so you rattle off the list. Aaron Rodgers and Joe Burrow, both valid, but both feel more like MVP candidates than comeback player of the year award. So then you have Kirk Cousins, Anthony Richardson. Okay. Chubb, and to me Daniel Jones. I mean, Sam Darnold is in the mix, but he played like he wasn't hurt. He was just not playing.
It has to be someone who got injured, or at least they clarified it. Now the voters can still do whatever they want, but they said like, hey, this is the spirit of the award. Going out of their way. I do worry. I like the story of Nick Chubb. I just think the Browns may take it a little slow with him and like want him for the second half of the season and in the playoffs and not rush him back. Again, this is like his second. He had a crazy knee injury, obviously at Georgia, that could have ended his career, but he did a ton of rehab and then hit the ground running in the NFL. He's going to be very aggressive trying to get out on the field, but it does just end up leaning towards quarterbacks a bunch. But I mean, look at comeback play of the year. I just want no part. I mean, DeMar Hamlin died and then came back, and they're like, yeah, we're still going to give it to a quarterback who wasn't even on the board when the season started. As much as I love the Joe Flacco run, and I felt like I made a nice couple bucks on riding him, it was crazy that the way that award played out. So I kind of am punting comeback player of the year this year.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and have kind of talked about it in this way that the Browns should be ultra conservative with Chubb. I think Casey thinks we'll see him earlier than I do. I just don't think you need him early going. The soft part, you need him in the hard part of the schedule, and you need him to be able to close out games. As last year was laughable as they tried to run out the clock when Flacco was quarterback, and just kept throwing it around the yard and giving other teams more chances. But I just think, bye week and beyond, I think is your goal. Maybe you see him sooner, but just to work him in. Casey, what do you think? When do you think we see Chubb?
I think it's week 7. They have a 3-game homestand right before the bye, 7, 8, and 9. I think you let him get his feet wet then, give him the bye week, let him get acclimated.
Yeah. He's been running and cutting on it, though. He is a freak, and he's been out there with Naheem Hines, both of them rehabbing, running, and sprinting after practice. So that's a good sign that he's cutting on it at least. All right, you guys, fantasy Oh wait, I wanted to talk one more betting market. Okay, so you
Sure.
talked about your long shot. I like the rookie markets. They're pretty wide open, right? The offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year stuff. I have a long shot I want to throw at you guys. I like Javon Baker, 80-1,
Ooh.
offensive rookie there.
It does sound like it. I mean, they did just cut Juju, so I think there is something to that. I think also they like him. We saw what he did. Remind me, Sean, Washington, right?
Yes.
And
Or no, UCF.
oh, I'm sorry, UCF.
Yeah.
And I would add. Yeah, you're leaning into a situation where there's not much competition. That's the angle.
So I would say this because
I appreciate that
because you're competing with a couple quarterbacks in the offensive rookie of the year, a la Caleb Williams, who obviously is the massive chalk there. Bo Nix, who I project as being the day one starter and maybe surprising teams a little bit. I think you're and DraftKings has this market. I think some maybe FanDuel as well. You can do like Javon Baker to lead rookies in receiving yards at 80-1 as well. So like I think he could have maybe Baker has a really big statistical game, but ultimately if a rookie quarterback gets his team into the playoffs, he's like a lock, right? And you look at like the Bears. They're like almost odds on favorite to get into the playoffs. Nix is going to be starting early. Drake May being hurt. Certainly there goes that, or sorry, not Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Drake May. I don't see getting them into the playoffs, but if one of those guys, the quarterbacks sneak into the playoffs, but the receiving yards, I like the Javon Baker angle. I already played this. Jalen McMillan, the receiver for the Bucks to lead receiving yards. You have two older receivers around him and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He's already won the starting job. I think that offense they're going to look to throw the ball more. Again, it's 80-1, but I think because there are a couple big name quarterbacks that might be tough to knock out of the way. I mean, put it this way. Look at Puka Nacua last year, set like 1,400 receiving yards and still didn't get it. But you probably could have got that. I mean, if you had Puka Nacua to lead receiving yards for rookies, it probably would have been in that 70 to 80-1 last year. And you wouldn't have to sweat out offensive rookie of the year.
And honestly, based on what the reports out of camp are saying and the chemistry with May and everything, I'm guessing if he gets there, Drake May maybe plays a couple more games than you were expecting, and he's 20-1 to lead the rookies in passing yards. And so you can do a little stack there, go a little Baker May stack that no one is playing, by the way. I'm sure you're going to be one of the few running to the window to bet some of these Patriots offensive props.
Yeah, he just seems to, you can only tell so much, but he seems to be like the only guy getting all the work there. The other guy that's interesting, obviously, in that market, but once again, I think you make a great point. If you're gonna dabble in that market, it's pretty risky at no matter what the price is, because a quarterback likely is going to win it with the number of quarterbacks playing as rookies. But Keon Coleman at 8-1, obviously, I think is a pretty interesting target.
That one's interesting because to kind of show you, like, I would. So sorry, Keon Coleman. What is his offense?
8-1.
8-1 to win offensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Okay,
same price for receiving yards. If you want to go down that path again, but no, I mean he has the most obvious path to being like the number one in a role that's going to get you the yards you need to win, whether it's rookie of the year or most yards. And he could be the number one in the offense. Maybe it's Kincaid, maybe it's Coleman. We're hearing all about Curtis Samuel lining up all over the field, but Keon Coleman certainly looks the part of a freestyle receiver with Josh Allen, very good at the point of the catch, not the fastest guy. I mean, I'm obviously in on Malik Neighbors as a Giants fan, but I like, especially for fantasy, Keon Coleman is a guy that's going pretty late. Definitely looks like he's going to be the number one receiver in that offense. And so, this 8-1 price, I want to say, Sean, in the beginning of the offseason, we were talking about Keon Coleman as a fun long shot in these markets. It looks like he's been bet down a bit.
No, I know that people are onto him.
I'm
but
too late.
Yeah,
I know.
No, it's
yeah, kids, you got to start making your football bets in March and April.
Yeah, I mean, the one that we have been that we've been touting, that Circus still has like a 65 or 70 to 1, is Will Levis to lead the league in passing yards. And when we started talking about it, it was 100 to 1, and then we did our seminar at Bet Bash. Not saying it's definitely. But like DraftKings went from 70 to 1 over the weekend. We did our Bet Bash summer. Not saying it's definitely related, but that was one of our bigger plays. And then now it's down to 30 to 1. Will Levis to lead the league in passing yards. So the crazier long shots, you got to take them early, because it doesn't take a lot of bets for them to move off this and get rid of, so they're not gonna keep it up there at that high price, even if they just get a couple $1,000 in bets, because they don't want to get killed on some long shots. So long shots, hit them early in the summer.
Yeah, that's got to learn that lesson. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland. Special guests, the Sports Gambling Podcast with Sean Stacking the Money Green and Ryan Real Money Kramer. Casey, you got a question?
Yeah, man. So I was looking at the Defensive Rookie of the Year odds, and I'm not seeing any real front runners. I'm looking at Law2 and Turner. I'm not really excited about that. Tell me why I shouldn't take a long odd dart throw on Cooper DeJean.
He plays the wrong position.
Yeah, I mean, so as
but Sean will tell you why it's a great bet.
No, I love Cooper DeJean. I'm super excited. I would say the problem with Cooper DeJean right now, he had a hamstring injury, and they've been taking him along really slow. And rookies who have like an injury in this key time of like training camp and stuff like that, I think you're really behind the 8 ball. Quinyon Mitchell, I do think we'll see the snaps. He's going to probably be the Eagles starting nickel cornerback, where Cooper DeJean, I don't think his path to starting is pretty slim. Isaiah Rodgers, who was the Eagles' other cornerback, that basically they rolled the dice on. He was suspended for a year, picked him up off the Colts. I just think Cooper DeJean's path to playing time isn't amazing, but I do like your head being in the right place and taking a little bit of longer shots. Now, normally you want to look someone who was a first round pick. It does help to be a pass rusher. I would look right towards we just did our Dolphins preview. You can get Chop Robinson around 20 to 1, Penn State kid. They Bradley Chubb, I don't know when he's going to be ready. You imagine, especially early on in the season, this Dolphins passing game is going to put teams behind the 8 ball. They're going to have to throw a bunch to catch up to the Dolphins. Chop Robinson, who's had a really good camp, I think he gets a couple sacks, some turnovers, that kind of stuff. He could be pretty interesting. But I'm with you in fading the chalk, especially this year, where normally there's like guys draft. I mean, it was to the 15th, 16th pick before they took a defensive player. So that normally it's always a first round pick. I think this year, because of the class, slightly different. Ryan, what was the other Darius Robinson?
Robinson, just kind of more of if you look at the history of this award, it's most likely gonna, unless you have a Sauce Gardner type season, which is very rare for a cornerback, it's going to be someone who gets a bunch of sacks. I think every once in a while you can get a tackle guy in there. Maybe you might look to Peyton Wilson in Pittsburgh. Guy should have been a first rounder, injury. Yeah. But I certainly like to pluck up those later first rounders. Darius Robinson down in Arizona, it does sound like he's going to see meaningful snaps. You mentioned Chop Robinson, no competition for snaps for him, and so I think it's the cornerback angle is just hard, because you probably need some flash. You probably need a little bit of like character, even because if you're really that good, you're not even getting thrown at. That's where Sauce having the personality came in. And
the NFL has gotten pretty decent at scouting cornerbacks. Like Sauce Gardner did win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but he was picked 4th overall.
Yeah.
So for one of these cornerbacks to hit like I don't know. It's possible. I mean, again, Quinyon Mitchell, I do think will be the starting nickel if he gets a couple interceptions. Sure. I mean, Nate Wiggins for the Ravens, he's had a decent camp, but again, like, you know, cornerbacks, rookie cornerbacks, it's rare that they hit the ground running and are like the best cornerback on their team, you know? So I would rather take a pass rusher who will see the field a bunch. And I think Chop Robinson and Darius Robinson kind of fit that mold.
Good choices. All right, let's transition real quickly to fantasy stuff. You know, a lot of our fans are in, you know, PPR 12, you know, your traditional league, right? You know, I'm a best ball guy myself. You know, I know you guys are huge best ball guys. Let me ask you this. Is Sam Laporta should he really be tight end 1, like across the board?
I mean, a lot of touchdowns. You would expect that to regress. He not my number 1 tight end. I feel like I'm still taking Travis Kelce over him. I'm still taking. I like Trey McBride a little bit more than him this year. I might even look to take Dalton Kincaid, betting on that he's going to see a 20-25% target share up there. I just think there's so many mouths to feed in that offense. He's going to have a good year. But if he doesn't get to that touchdown mark, if he regresses down 3 touchdowns, you know, I think it puts him in the mix. He's still a top tier tight end. He's still a tier 1 guy, but I don't think I'm taking him first.
Yeah, I would make the case for Sam Laporta. I get there are maybe some signs of regression, but you know, there's also signs of him even improving a little bit on what they did year 1. Again, as we mentioned, like the Lions, the situation for them, all the dome games, the good offensive line that Jared Goff has. You know, I know everyone's high on Jameson making a leap. I think that's projecting a ton. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs back pretty similar numbers. I mean, the touchdown stuff was a little high, but again, you could look at it another way of like tight ends usually struggle their rookie year, and this guy put up these kind of numbers his first year. What if he adds on top of that? Then you have a really a super high ceiling case, and they clearly like throwing to him in the red zone, in the end zone. He's just a tough guard. So yeah, I'd like Sam Laporta this year.
All right, just to help out some of our viewers and listeners here, guys, who are your favorite sleepers? Later, it's getting to be the later round of the draft, and there's somebody that you really like or that you've clicked on a lot this offseason, whether it be best ball or whatever, in any scenario that you can find some good value on. Help some of our listeners out in their fantasy drafts here. Besides
the obvious, Jerome Ford for the Cleveland. He's going so late. Absolutely smashed that one. But yeah, Zamir White has been someone I've been riding that wave all the way up. It seems like there's not many other running backs out there where you like, where is the competition for the carries? I know you can tell me that he hasn't done it before, but the team seems confident that he can do it based on what they brought in. And he seems confident in being able to do it. And just the sound of that stadium when they're screaming Zeus for Zamir White, you know, and also to partner with betting, like very fun player to bet most rushing yards in the league this year based on the fact what if Antonio Pierce gets his way and they run the ball, he gets 300 carries, he'll be in the mix. And so Zamir White's someone I've been drafting a ton.
I mean going back to the Titans passing game, I mean DeAndre Hopkins dealing with a little bit of a knee thing, he should be good to go week 1. You can get him especially now that he's banged up a little bit, you can get him crazy late. And I don't even know if he's quite qualifies as a sleeper, but you know, right next to him, Calvin Ridley. Like, I think everyone has this image in their mind of the Tennessee Titans, and hey, they're gonna pound the rock with Derrick Henry or, you know, Eddie George or Chris Johnson. It's like, no, this is a completely different offense. It's going to be a pass first offense. They brought in some running backs, you know, your Tajay Spears, I think is also interesting. So I would say components in the Titans passing game. And if you want to completely punt on quarterback, even in a 12-man league and take Will Levis as your quarterback, like, and just say, hey, screw it, I'm gonna ride with him. I think you could do worse than that. Like in a home league though, if you're playing like normal 12-team league, I always like to try to leave with the rushing quarterback. Cause that to me obviously is the separator. But if you don't get a Lamar, a Jalen Hurts, even a Kyler Murray, Jaden Daniels, and you want to just say screw it, yeah, like and get DeAndre Hopkins, get Ridley maybe late with Will Levis, I think is a fun strategy.
All right, last question for you guys. What is the latest you should take a quarterback in a home league, 12 team league?
Last round.
Last round. Go ahead. Just punt completely.
If you don't get one of those quarterbacks Sean's talking about, just take the last one. Don't even waste a pick. Just you've lost on getting a running quarterback. Just wait and end up with Stafford or Rodgers or there's the guys who aren't being drafted are quite Deshaun, Jameis.
Yeah, you don't need to.
So yeah,
not great there.
Take the last one. If you don't take, my opinion is if you don't take basically Kyler, Lamar, Hurts or Allen, maybe you like Jaden Daniels. Just take the last one.
Well, and I would, and I don't. I'm looking at the list just to double check. I would also include Anthony Richardson in there, depending on how, how up to date the rest of your league is. I mean, there's no stopping this dude running. Again, small sample size, but he led all fantasy quarterbacks in fantasy points per snap. Again, his issue is staying on the field. He's a big dude. If he can stay healthy, it's going to be awesome. So I would Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, throw Kyler in there, like get one of those guys, and even Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, you could probably, you might be able to squeeze by taking as your last quarterback, and you have a massive rushing upside. So to Ryan's point, like I would still try and get a rushing quarterback, whatever that ends up meaning for your league. So you might be able to wait pretty far down. Again, it's tough to say what round because there might be a run on quarterbacks. It kind of depends on your league. But yeah, I would definitely get one of the rushing quarterbacks.
The Sports Gambling Podcast Network. They've got you covered from every sport you want, but you've got to stay locked in onto these guys right here in their show. They've got every team, college, NFL. They cover it from all angles, every betting market you want. And they're just blowing up everywhere on the Visa network in Vegas every week. You guys are the best for embracing me and letting me spout off in your DMs whenever I want to. It's Brad always sends us these like crazy like 12-team parlays that he's got going. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. $3 to win 500. Yeah, I know.
Hey,
it's I mean, think about it.
That's a pizza bet.
Well, also I tell people like it's way more fun sweating out one of those. I mean, think how many $3 scratch tickets you have. How many times have you won $500? Like, and you actually like get to choose what you do, or
that sweat's not 3 hours. Either.
No, exactly. So keep sending the DMs. Nice meeting you, Casey.
Nice meeting you, man.
Thank you guys for doing this. You guys are generous with your time, and we appreciate it. Everybody go follow the Sports Gambling Podcast. Sean, Stacking the Money Green, and Ryan, Real Money Kramer. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
All right. And just like that, we will transition to our other guest here tonight and get Zack Jackson of The Athletic on. What is up, Zack? It's been a long time since we've talked. How you doing, sir?
Good. I'm doing all right. We're rolling right along here.
I
think it's 3 weeks tomorrow that they started camp. Feels like 3 months. So let's get to the real games.
Seriously. I'm sure you're exhausted from a day out there, 2 days out there with the Vikings. But I've got to tell you, Zack, looking at as someone who isn't there and is trying to, figure out what, how the Browns did in general. You're seeing quite a variance of takeaways. It's very kind of hard to determine how they did. It sounds like the defenses both did well for both teams. But I wanted to have you on mainly, Zack, And you can follow Zach on Twitter at Akron Jackson. And of course, he writes for The Athletic. I'm a big fan. Make sure you read him all the time. It's always fantastic. But Zach, last year, you were the one person who kind of, identified like something doesn't look right in the drop back pass game, like very early, right? Even in camp, and like when everybody else was kind of, blowing smoke at Deshaun and everything's going. You were very real about it, and so I wanted to bring you on because you've earned that credibility, certainly, and get your thoughts on what you've seen so far this offseason.
Well, I just think in general, I've seen enough to know that it's supposed to be fast. It's supposed to be good, right? Like everybody has bad days, bad throws, and balls get dropped and balls get tipped. But like in an NFL practice, it's supposed to be good throws and good catches. So we haven't seen crispness as a way to look at it, right? Like in a bad practice, you run fewer plays because you're chasing the ball down, right? Because it's on the ground all the time. We've seen a lot of bad practices. So I would say this. There's only been one day where all the pass catchers were there. There's been no days that the running backs and offensive line were there. And there's been one or two good throws every day, but other than that, they all look the same. It's just inconsistent. It's all short throws and anything over 4 yards. And sometimes the 4-yarders are an adventure. So you can say all of these excuses are built in, and I didn't expect it to look great. Right. And it's August, 15th.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you don't panic over it, but you can't say that it's good or even a little bit good based on what we've seen thus far.
Even better. You can't even say it's better than last year at this point. Maybe.
Brad, that's an interesting one. I really haven't tried to go there because they say new offense, right? They said that kind of last year. I would say that, the 2 days or 3 days that Jerry Jeudy's been in there, it's clear what their vision is for him. I think it's clear they want to get David Njoku the ball quickly. They want to line up to where they're going to get mismatches every time with either Njoku or Jeudy. And if teams have to pinch in the middle, they're going to roll Watson out or they're going to throw it to Cooper out there. Like, I see what the vision is. It just hasn't been there. And there's a bunch of different reasons. So there's still 3+ weeks until they play. I think given Watson's injury and some of the new pieces and uncertainty of when or if Nick Chubb's going to be available, I'm looking at a month-ish of the season to get a full evaluation anyway. But right now, if they played the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow, they would have one chance to win, and that would be 13-10.
All right. We appreciate that. Casey, questions?
Yeah, if you were to rank the positional groups on offense in like level of concern, where would you start?
Ooh, that's an interesting one, Casey. Each year before the season, I write like in order, the 1 through 9 or 1 through 11, however deeply you know which ones I trust the most. And the defensive ones are always on top. Yeah. So top heaviness, I trust David Njoku. And he did get hurt today. It's a couple plays in. He never left the field. He tried to go back in twice. Like, I don't think it's anything major. We'll see. But he just looks, again, like a different player. I think last year at the Greenbrier, you started to see that. And the only reason I wouldn't say that he's an elite tight end is we need to see it more consistently, but we might. The running backs, I would probably put last just because we haven't seen, right? Yeah. We have seen none of Nick Chubb, and we don't know when that's coming. We've seen none of Nyheim Hines, and we don't know when that's coming. Deontay Foreman has had good moments in the NFL. He's also had a lot of 2 yards in a cloud of dust moments, and we've only seen him for a few practices. So I think the vision is to use Jerome Ford as like that Swiss Army guy and Hines to an extent. I think the vision is that Pierre Strong is a special teams player who's available for fresh legs and really fast legs. I think he might be the fastest straight line player on the team, but we just haven't seen him put it together. Today in the red zone, Ford had a run. I don't know if it was Ford or Strong, and Foreman had a run where the line really got in the full contact and they really pushed him. And that's the first time we'd seen it. Every other run has just been not good. And it's just, like I said, I can tell you why. They're trying to get everybody on the same page. The line is not on the same page. The quarterback is trying to get comfortable. It's what you see in the early stages of an offense. This offense is clunking. I'd sum it up right there. You can let me go now. I'll stay in a couple more minutes. This offense so far has been a clunker. The pieces are there for it to be much better than it's been. But there's a long, long way to go. And, panic or dive further at your own risk. Let's see some games. Let's see Jed Wills get back and, see where it goes.
Great segue there to Jed Wells. I saw you tweet about him today. He was out. Did he do something after practice? Is that what it was?
After walkthrough. So, we saw it at the Greenbrier. We've seen it here. It's part of the injured guy's schedule. Sometimes they're just out there jogging. Sometimes it's just 140-yard sprint and some side jogging. Sometimes it's a regimented workout. So this was only 3 or 4 minutes. It was Jed Wills going through some drop backs, going through some football movements with a trainer, at least one, watching closely. He was wearing the brace. He didn't appear to be pushing it. And then he took the brace off and it was over. So, this is MCL surgery last December. So we're at 9 months now. So I don't know, guys. I'm trying to find out. Was there a setback? Are they playing it extra cautiously? Is there something else? But I was zero surprised when Jed Wills wasn't on the field in May and June. Like, who cares? But now we're in mid-August. I'm starting to get concerned, and so are the Browns.
Yeah, that would be my, that's where I'm at the version of like, I'm about ready to panic. James Hudson makes me very panicky, and just the idea that they're in the position they are, it's almost like they're banking on him being back in like 3 weeks, which doesn't really seem realistic. Does that sound crazy?
I don't like the panic word with anything, Brad, here in mid-August, especially for this Browns team.
Sure.
But yes, like if we get into next week when they don't go back to the practice field till Tuesday, and it's the week that the coach has designated like the simulated regular season week.
Mhm.
If you don't see him doing light stuff there, then you can start to worry, like, what is his timetable for realistically being ready to block Micah Parsons in week 1 and Josh Allen in week 2 and Brian Burns in week 3. Right. So they don't, and that's the other part of it. They don't have a backup left tackle. James Hudson has played some left tackle. Jermaine Ifedi has played some left tackle. James Hudson has played on the right. He's been a sufficient backup. He was always a developmental guy. He's to the final year of his rookie contract. It's time to find out if that's working or not. Well, there's no evidence it's working with him as a left tackle. It's worked with him as the extra tight end, as the guy they keep bringing along, and they trust in this tight spot here. So what would they do? I don't know. Going back to the winter, there's been no willingness to put DeJuan Jones on the left. And I think the thinking there is just keeping him on the right. I don't think there's any realistic thought of moving Bitonio out there. I think that ship has kind of sailed. So, if you do get in the real emergency situation, we'll see what they do. But, I would give it 5 to 10-ish more days on Jed Wills. And I'm still thinking that's plan A, but we're trying to find out why we haven't seen him yet.
Casey, I'm gonna let you go, but I want to follow that up with a quick question. I know I'm still on your questions. DeJuan Jones, are you surprised they haven't kicked him over there to the left side?
I'm not surprised. I just think, guys, that he's such a natural talent, but he's so unique because he's so big. And you saw last year, like when he's on, what he can be. I think they just wanted him to continue to get to that next step with that one position. So in 2 years, if they feel like DeJuan Jones is doing everything, staying healthy, getting in better shape, and continuing to progress, like, I think they could move him. But I think right now they thought that the next step for him is just to become a better all-around right tackle and continue to try to master that position to take that next step. Because what we saw last year was really good, but it was 8-10 games, and it's the makings of an outstanding player, but it's still really just scratching the surface there.
So I think we got a snapshot of the future of what it looks like with Martin Emerson as QB or CB1. So he got to do some one-on-ones against Justin Jefferson. What did you make of that matchup?
Well, I wouldn't write Denzel Ward off quite yet. I mean, they just committed all that money to him, and he has been arguably the third best player in camp. But Martin's in the discussion. Martin was awesome. Now Jefferson got a few, as he does, right? The guy's incredible. But for the second straight year in this joint practice setting, you saw Martin Emerson against top-tier receivers. Last year was A.J. Brown and Smith, and Martin Emerson's great. You see what makes him rare. The closing speed, the length, all of that stuff. He's sitting on a $100 million contract that's probably coming a year from now, and we'll see. But, I don't know. I think Denzel Ward is still in for a good year, and obviously we're all concerned about the concussions there. I think it's a good sign, without being a doctor, that he's out on the field, that he's watching. But, the Browns need them all. In that playoff game, Martin Emerson had a really uncharacteristically bad game.
Yeah,
he did.
but in 2 years, what have you seen Martin Emerson have bad games like 2 or 3?
Yeah.
The guy is really good, and watching him against Jefferson was a treat for 2 days.
Yeah, he's tremendous. I don't know how long. I'll be honest. My thing with Greg Newsome, when they announced that injury and kind of digging into it, it feels like he's going to miss more time than maybe they alluded to. I know Stefanski alluded to week 1, but it feels like if you had surgery on your hamstring, you're probably going to miss more time than that. Either way, Miles Harden, Cam Mitchell, filling that duty, I guess. Mitchell first, then Harden. Impressions of how Mitchell looks and Miles.
I'll start with Newsome. The surgery was about 6.5, 7 weeks out from the opener, so there is a chance he's been running on the field. I don't know, and I don't think the team has made a final determination. With the NFI designation, they have the right to hold him back for a month of the season, but I think that he's on track, or I don't think the door's closed at all.
Interesting.
Right? The general rule is you're going to need 10 defensive backs over the course of the year, right? Corners are just the smallest guys on the field, and they're in high-speed collisions on 60% of the plays. So they want all of these guys. They've treated it like a premium position. And, they won't put Greg Newsome out there in week 1 just to put him out there because they feel good about these other guys, but I wouldn't close the door on that. Miles Harden may be the surprise of camp. I talked to some people that really liked him, but when you're looking at a 7th rounder from South Dakota, and in this secondary, he qualifies probably as the surprise. But I think Halacey's been really good. I think Cameron Mitchell missed the first week or so, and he's been really good. It was surprising today, the first dime defense in the Vikings 1-minute drill, Miles Harden was out there in the slot.
Interesting.
So that was it's the first we'd seen that. It's been Cam Mitchell when he's out there, which is understandable. And with Ward down, it's Ben Halacey playing with the starters, which are valuable reps for him, whether it's going well or not. So, I would just say to Browns fans, they've treated it like a premium position, and they feel really good about the investments they made in Halacey, in Mitchell, and in Harden, and we'll see where it goes. And this is not to take away anything from Miles Harden. We've seen before where a rookie 7th rounder in camp is a little different when he goes out there in the games, because guys, I don't care who it is, if it's Trevor Lawrence or Daniel Jones, where are they throwing? The rookie. Right. Yeah. But he's been a really good rookie, and he and Halacey both over 2 days made play after play. When and Darnold did the same thing. He threw at the young guys, right? He wasn't throwing to Emerson except when it was one-on-ones, and he had to throw to Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
So he threw to those guys, and they made plays.
Casey, we'll get you out of here, Zach. I know you've had a long day, but Casey, go ahead, and then I'll have one more question for you.
Yeah, so on day 1 of the joint practices, Alex Wright was starting opposite of Miles, and then everybody was focused on Miles blowing every play up. But how did Alex Wright look in that starting role?
I thought he looked good. I'm not sure that he finished practice today. I'm not sure what's going on. Casey, to be truthful, I watched the offense more than the defense, but of the 10 times that I really watched a full defensive play, Miles was back there on about 7 of them, and JOK was back there on 2 of them. That left 1 for everybody else for the Vikings to make a play. And the Vikings did make more plays today than they did in the first game. But I would tell you this, the fact that they did not invest in another rusher and have not to this point tells you what they think about Alex Wright. It's just how I look at it, right? You have your clear top older guys in Miles and Za'Darius. You have your designated rusher in Obo. And then behind that, you don't have anybody proven. But they trust in Alex Wright. And speaking of Miles Harden being out there, I think 2 different times today when they shifted and reset at the start of a formation, Alex Wright was in there in the pass rush packages playing inside. So some of that is Za'Darius is back at practice, but not fully. But some of that is, a lot of it is what I just said, that endorsement of Alex Wright. They think he took a leap, and they always thought that he was a down the road guy. They think he can continue to take a leap.
All right, I lied. I have 2 questions, but I'll make the first one really quick.
I'm here. Go ahead.
Siaka Ika, was on the ground a lot in the preseason game again. Have you seen anything that encourages you that could potentially work out?
No, but I really haven't seen much. I tried to make a note to myself in the preseason game, watch these defensive tackles. I haven't gone back and watched it yet. You start watching the ball, you start working on your articles, you start doing other things. Sure. So I was watching the Packers receivers because they have about 8 who seemed to me that could make the Browns roster. But that's an interesting one. Just in 2 summers, I haven't seen much from Ika or McGuire. So now as we're getting ready 10 days from making the cuts? Are those guys locks? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's hurt or if Michael Hall's not going to be around, then yeah, he's probably making it. But they drafted Briggs in the 7th round. And I'll tell you, they don't think that Briggs is going to make it back to the practice squad if they have to waive him. Like when they drafted Briggs, 3 teams called them and said, damn you, we were going to take him. Now that it's a 7th round, right? It's not the 5th round, but like just with, I don't know how that's going to go, but I would say Ika's probably on the outside looking in, and we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, in Briggs, to your point, looked very quick off the ball in the preseason game for what we saw out there.
He's like maybe the strongest guy out there. So,
yeah.
Brad, I think the other thing is if Tomlinson's back, right, and he's healthy, it matters less because when you're talking about body types, right, you have the Shelby Harris, Mo Hurst, Michael Hall body type who's there to do one, and they brought in Quentin Jefferson, and then you have the Dalvin Tomlinson, Briggs, Ika body type to play the different positions inside. So if Dalvin's ready to go and ready to play 40 snaps, then who's number 3 there matters a whole lot less than if Dalvin can't play or can only give you 15, 20 snaps for the first month of the season. And I don't know that answer right now.
Yeah. Knee scope, right? So I wonder how they'll ease him back in with that. You got to think.
Walking around, but I mean, you're talking about a 30-year-old, 330-pound guy. Like there's no simple knee scope.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, and then lastly, I'll kind of take us full circle here. We talked about Watson at the beginning, and you talked about the change in the offense. They tried it last year, right? But they couldn't. They had to kind of go back either because Watson didn't look ready, or injuries, and it just was the easiest way to with the staff that they had is to go back to what we have. I know that there's going to be base principles based in Stefanski's core stuff, but from what you've seen, when the video's not on, because obviously they're being very covert about what they're showing, is it conceptually different, and do you like what you see?
Well, I think what we've seen is a lot of different formations, college type bunch formations, guys running to either create misdirection at the snap or before the snap. We've seen the beginning of the RPO stuff, different rollouts and things like that. But both days they broke the huddle against the Vikings, they had Ricci, the backup tight end, playing fullback. And that's probably just for pass protection reasons. So that's right back to what it was. So, and again, this does not mean that they're behind schedule or that they're bailing on anything. But we have the times we've actually seen the offense run 6 plays are few. You're doing your drill work and install. You're going through your practices. Like what it looks like, we have an idea. But until we see it in 2 quarters and they see how teams defended and they see what really works for them, So I think they want to throw short passes to David Njoku and to Jerome Ford, and they want Judy to have the timing to when he gets the matchup that he and Watson can lock in and say, we're either going short or we're going long and we're going right now. But they're going to have to build to that point. They're nowhere near it right now. That doesn't mean that it won't get there. But I think even just observing, we're going to need games to figure out, hey, what were they trying to do here? And did they miscommunicate? Did the defense read it? Did he just not see it? Like this guy's not a pocket passer. He's not. He's at his best when he gets out. In an environment here where you're not fully tackling to the ground, maybe you're not seeing him at his best. But he's dropping back, and you don't know what the hell he's looking at half the time.
Interesting. Zach, I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you're extremely busy, and you've been working hard out there. So make sure you read Zack Jackson at The Athletic, covering your Cleveland Browns, and follow him on X at Akron Jackson. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Zach. It was a blessing to have you on and have you kind of give us the straight truth. We needed it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Zach. Well, Pace. Yeah.
My takeaways. My first takeaway is it's getting late awfully early at left tackle. I know it's only August 15th. But I don't feel good about that position right now.
Look at it's how I feel.
It's the reason I had to get it over the defensive side. I had to feel a little better about where we're going.
Yeah, I specifically wanted to get Zach on for that reason because last year, we heard all these conflicting reports and some of it was like he looks great. Like I love Nathan Zagura. I love
Well, it's,
I like Bo Bishop, but they
you know,
work for the team.
they're state-run media. You know,
They
Zagura's
work for
there,
the Cleveland Browns,
and
and
Zagura did that job when they were 1-31, and it was still shining apples. So
yeah.
hardest
So
working
like
man.
I listened to it today, right, and yesterday. Yesterday, they weren't not so much. They were watching the other side of the field or whatever, and
Yeah,
but they are evaluating the one-on-one parts, right, which you can see if you seek it out. It's actually they show it actually on Browns Daily live while they're sitting out there. They show all
Yeah.
the one-on-ones, which is fun to watch.
it is.
But that's not. What does that mean? Doesn't have anything to do with processing the offense, the grasp of the offense, any of that stuff, right?
Not
So,
for the quarterbacks. Yeah, no, it doesn't.
right. I mean, is he throwing a good ball? It
Yeah,
seems
that's
like he's
helpful as his
throwing a
mechanics
good.
look good, but
Yeah. But like that was not. I guess I didn't expect to hear him say the same thing as he said last
yeah,
year.
and
I
and
thought we would be further along.
and I'm
Now
not
he
there.
makes a good point that maybe they shouldn't be there yet because of the new offense and everything.
And the missing pieces, the people you're going to be playing with aren't on the field. That
Well-
makes it hard. You don't have all your receivers there. Like there's a lot of time on task that needs to happen between the quarterback and the receivers with timing, route depth. You know what I mean?
But at this point, Casey, we're running out of time, man.
No, dude, I'm not here saying that. I'm just. You could see why it would be slower, but there's still no reason for it to not be clicking. Like as far as when I'm watching from the outside, I'm not there. But what I was looking at, because I'm not, there's not bullets flying, so this isn't football. But it looked like he was going through progressions better, and it looked like his footwork was cleaner. But to hear Zach say, "Who's there?" Boots on the ground, you're seeing it in person. It doesn't feel that he's grasping all the concepts. You know, it's
Called
like it's
it
a little foreign
clunky.
still. It did. That's what I'm saying. Like that's the last thing this offense needs to be is clunky.
I think the defense dominated for 2 days, and they were loud, and they told the Vikings about it all day.
The coach
and
had to come
that's-
out and tell us to lighten up.
Yeah, and that's great, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that they loved that, right?
Yeah.
Schwartz loved it, and everything, and
And the Browns defense is
loved
not
it.
at full strength,
Yeah,
and they're doing.
I'm not even concerned about the defense at this point. Like maybe a lot of people have pointed to the stopping the run in the preseason game, but
If a team beats us just by running the football, props to them. I don't think you can do that in today's NFL.
I think you want to encourage a team to run the ball, but not to your detriment. We've talked about this
Yeah.
before. Like
When you
the
stopping
Chargers
the
used
run
to
matters
try
in the
to,
fourth quarter.
yeah. The Chargers used to try to encourage teams to run the ball with light boxes because that's analytically what, but they couldn't stop anybody. So you would they did it to their detriment, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to be able to stop it when you need to stop it. Although inviting the run can be helpful, right? So I'm not worried about that. Like I think when you get Dalvin back and even until then, they have enough guys there. I'm encouraging about Briggs, right? Like I like Briggs too. Encouraging about Harden. I love Harden. I love mouthy corners, right? Like,
Yeah.
in your face corners. So
I'm encouraged by a lot of players who might not even make this roster, like an Isaiah
Right.
Thomas. Briggs is among them. Like they could play their face off and still not make this roster. I
think
it was
Jamari
surprising to hear
Thrash
that
makes
Briggs
it.
probably would make it to a practice squad. That kind of surprised me. I figured that would be the role for him in his first year. So that was surprising.
Yeah, he said other teams were like commenting
Damn
on
you.
that they were gonna
Damn
get
you,
him.
Andrew Berry.
So if they do try to get him through, that would stands to reason why you would think you might not be able to get him through to the practice squad if other teams were saying that.
We're interested. Yeah.
They're going to see his name on that list and scoop him up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an interesting name to keep an eye on how they handle Juwan Breaks. Right?
Very. I've went back and I've watched Ika's film several times, and it's what he's putting on tape is unplayable.
No, yeah, it's not.
Flat out
Yeah.
unplayable. You can't. If you're a guy who's supposed to be playing 2-eye, one tech, and you can't stay on your feet, you can't hold your ground in double teams, then you can't be out there. Like that's
The one
That's the
play he
gig.
got around the guy and he fell down.
shot the gap. Dude hit him in the hip, and that was very light contact. You have to stay on your feet, man. You got to keep your feet.
Can't at all.
Yeah. And then I see him get washed out, and then they took him out, and the next time they brought him in, he went off sides. Then Briggs played the rest of the game. It looked good.
And
did.
he did look good.
It looked good.
Real quickly, thanks to our guys from the SGPN, the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. They were great. Ryan Real Money Kramer and Sean Steck and the Money Green. They are, dude, I encourage you all, go listen to their podcast. It's just SGP. And there's the Sports Gambling Podcast. And then off of that, they have like the NBA Sports Gambling Podcast, the tennis, NFL. They have every branch right
If
off
you're
of
doing
that.
tennis, you are a hardcore.
They have
That's
golf.
what I'm-
They have everything, right? They have everything. And these guys, so I've been following them, and they similar to whatever, any podcast, they started in their basement. They invested. They live in LA together, so they built that studio that we saw them in, so they can sit in the same studio,
Yeah.
they got invited to go on VSiN, which is the gambling network in Vegas. Now they have their own show on Friday nights every week during the NFL season in Vegas.
Yeah.
How amazing would that be?
That's huge, man. That's dope.
And they're up on a billboard, so they're blowing up, and their network's blowing up, and it's really cool, and I feel great for them. So, and if you listen to their podcast, they're freaking hilarious, and they're smart. So, it's terrific content for sure. And then Zack Jackson, man, coming up clutch, coming in huge for us here. That's a good
Not
get.
pulling punches.
He
Tell you
doesn't.
what he
Zach
saw.
pulls no punches, and he came in, and that's why I wanted to have him on. Right? That's why I had him on, is because
He was the one guy last year that was saying it, and everyone else was trying to, look on the
he
bright
said
side.
last year. So, and I told him that in the email too. I was like, listen. Amongst all of the nonsense last year, the one person that called out this. So if you had got a couple minutes, I'd love to pick your brain on where they're at now. And he pulled no punches, and it
Nope.
doesn't sound great, Casey. It doesn't sound great.
No, I still believe in this team's ceiling, but
The talent is there, and even he
Yeah.
admitted that, right? Like, and that certainly the offense is part of it, but like once again. Like, you changed your whole staff, and I don't want to overreact, right? But you changed your whole staff so that you could do this new offense, right? And with the basics of whatever, Stefanski. But, like, because you can't block anybody on the offensive line right now, it sounds like they're stuck in the old stuff.
I got a question for you. This
At
isn't
times.
to slander Puffy. This is, would you feel better about the outlook of this offensive line if Callahan was still there?
Yes. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm not meaning to slam the new coach. Just
I'm not either.
we've seen
I'm not either.
Callahan navigate this before and get playable out of it. Not,
What's the I'm trying to think of a comparison of there were multiple times. I'm trying to think of a good comp, like in another sport, of like what he was able to do. There were times over the years where he would just take a guy when
Jerron Christian.
Jerron Christian, but even I mean, why isn't he on the roster?
He's on another roster. They didn't.
I know,
they
but
didn't want
that's
to
a
invest- I
guy.
thought he'd have been a good backup, man. I thought that was.
He would have. That's who you should have
young-
signed as your backup. He at least gets in front of somebody and gives you long enough to run a play.
Yeah, he'll get in the way. He'll get in
Is
the
he
way.
in Tennessee?
I can't. It might have been Houston, but it could be Tennessee. I
It
remember
would
when I
make
saw it.
sense.
'Cause I was surprised they didn't make an offer on him. Obviously not to
That
be the
seemed like
starter,
a
but I think he
no-brainer
did it.
after the way he performed in the position he was put in.
Mhm.
That seemed like a no-brainer to keep him, especially if you're really evaluating your roster and you know what you have, and you have these injury concerns going into the next year.
Mhm.
You got an ACL, MCL, and 2 MCLs as your best 3 tackles.
And you got Hudson out there. You can't tell me
You've got
Christian
James
wasn't an
Hudson.
upgrade over Hudson,
He is.
right?
He was clearly better. Not, I mean, Hudson can run block, but that's not what we're talking about here.
No, that's not the league.
That's not the league.
That's not the league. And it's not like Hudson fails in one area of pass protection. It's both, dude. He can't anchor on a bull rush, and he can't maintain contact when someone runs the arc. Like, he needs to be playing guard, and we don't need you at guard. Like, I don't know. I don't know why he's out there. That's a curious decision that I wish someone would tell me, like, why him? Why is he getting these valuable reps right now?
Well, let's see if Callahan was Terry Francona with the Indians getting play out of mediocre players. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what's I was thinking of kind of like that, like a spot duty, like a spot start. Like if he had to get a spot start, John Christian Sr.
Titans.
Yeah, I mean
Tighten
that
up.
makes total sense, right? Like he
Yeah.
went with Callahan, would bring him with him. Like the Browns should have definitely held on to him. Yeah, but yeah, right here, there. You guys are beat me to it.
Right on.
Your partner in crime is in here. Yeah, they got 3 weeks. But like 3 weeks is not a lot of time, and it's gonna go by like this. And in out of those 3 weeks, not a lot of practice days, really.
And think about what we're doing here. We're banking all of our hopes on Jedrick Wills saving this.
He did like 5 minutes of walkthrough today. What are we talking about? Like,
I don't know.
this can't be the plan, is it?
It's the plan, Brad. It's the plan.
You really think that's it? You really think this is the plan?
I follow actions. Man. If this was like, why aren't they signing someone? Why aren't they trying people out, getting them in the building, seeing if you can still pass that? Even some veterans who maybe have just hung it up, just you got one more in you. I don't know, man. Like, I follow actions, and by actions, they say yes, this is the plan. If Wills can't go, Hudson or Ifedi's going to get those reps.
I don't think they love Hudson. I just think they. I just think
I can't put him on my 53. How's he out there with the starting unit?
I don't know. Like, but neither I can't do it with Adeniji or Lorenzo Thompson or any of these other guys either.
Thompson is he's not someone who's going to play right now, but he's someone that I don't mind them developing.
They
We need someone who can play left tackle today.
They never should have traded away Wheatley.
For Pierre Strong.
Never should have done it. I know he mentioned Pierre Strong, and I don't know if Larry's in the chat, but I still don't think he's going to make the 53.
Pierre Strong's not going to make as much difference as someone who could spot start at left tackle.
Do you think he's going to make the 53? Everybody's talking like he's going to make the 53.
No, I'm saying
we
that's
wrong?
like best case scenario. No, I don't have him on my 53. I'm just
I
saying,
don't have him on my-
like, to trade him for Wheatley when Wheatley could be a spot starter right now for a guy who's a fringe roster player. And that's if with injuries. I know. But this is where we're at, brother. I should feel better. About this team right now. But I do. It's getting late awfully early, man. In the offensive line.
Listen, it's just it's like I still think they're going to be good. I'm not saying they're not going to be. I'm just worried that like
Our expectations are raised, though.
I don't understand
Being
what
mediocre
they're
is not good
doing.
enough.
I don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I see Hudson out there, that's where my brain goes. Like, what are we doing? What do we accomplish with this?
Right.
You'll get someone hurt.
Yeah. I know he was looking like a return specialist, but I just don't get the point of carrying him if that's all he's going to do. Like, you can't just be a return specialist anymore in the NFL. You have to be able to do
unless you're
something
so
else.
amazing at it that it's, yeah.
But, I mean, this new return, I don't know.
It's still hard for me to
That's
judge the new return because
that's
no
the
one's going to
least-
show anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, but if if you're returning it, it's getting past the 30 every time. Basically, from what I've seen.
So far, yeah.
Yeah. Connie, don't say that.
I don't want to breathe that into existence.
Yeah. So it sounds like so in listening to somebody else talk about the disastrous start they had on day one on the left side, right? There was like false start, would have been a sack, false start, like 5 plays or something to start the teams 11 on 11. But I heard somebody, this is where I mean, like, it's so hard to get. I heard somebody say they made adjustments and it wasn't an issue after that. And I heard somebody else say, like, the Vikings would have sacked him on, like, every other play if they were allowed to hit the quarterback. It sounds to me like the truth is more towards the negative on the offensive side, just from listening to Zach. Clunky.
Yeah.
I mean, he said he's having issues with 4-yard passes.
So they're an adventure at times. Yeah.
But I mean, so what about like the stuff that we're seeing that looks really good on video?
The state run media puts out those balls that are coming out nice, hitting guys in stride down the field.
Propaganda?
I mean, they're only going to show you what they want to show you anyway, but it's, I don't know, man. I'm going to be shook for a little while.
Yeah, Callahan was able to make lemonade with, yeah, absolutely. He was, he could take whoever it was.
Get the best version out of them.
Yeah, because,
yeah.
And what great coaches do is like, okay, so if you can identify the opponent and what they do well, he could simplify a task and take an average to poor lineman and say, this week, these are the 3 things you need to focus on. And in doing that, you'll allow us to continue running our offense. Somehow, Andy Dickerson needs to be able to do that with one of these guys. Because let's be, from my understanding, and Zach didn't say anything about it, but DeJuan Jones doesn't even, I heard DeJuan Jones isn't 100% yet. Like, he struggled the past 2 days because he's not, like, all the way back. He's playing, but he doesn't, like, hasn't regained his full quickness or whatever, right? So if that's the case, how is Wills going to be ready to go week 1? I can't imagine at this point that this is what they're banking on.
Yeah.
They have to pivot.
We're having the same conversation this time next week. Like, I think
maybe they think they can get. Maybe they're banking on cut downs.
And this is my point though, is bad offensive line depth isn't a problem that's isolated in Cleveland. That's across the league. I don't know who's letting go of a starting caliber player. And mind you, think who you play week 1. Think of who that guy has to block. Like that is a terrible proposition.
Micah Parsons. Is
Absolutely
a
terrible.
maniac. Yeah, I would feel better if Callahan was here. I mean, Puffy had nothing against him.
Yeah,
I'm sure he knows what he's doing or whatever. But so far, yeah, it ain't been great. And they couldn't run the ball at all either in the first preseason game at all.
Yeah. Yeah, the averages were terrible. I will say R.I.P. to John Kelly finally getting off the roster. I'm not saying that he won't be back. I think he's one of those guys there like, well, let go of him now, get more time for Aiden Robbins. But at the end of the day, would I be surprised if they brought John Kelly back and threw him on a practice squad? I would not.
No. What do you think of this? Do you really think that they? Do you really think that
we have?
Yeah, they don't.
No.
I don't think they view Hudson any differently than we do. I just think it's the best they can do right now.
That hurt. That hurt to think out. Yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, you saw them pull him this week to put Effetti and give Effetti reps with the first team. So
Effetti, Thompson got reps with the first team. They tried everybody this week, so it's not like they're not cycling through the guys they have.
They see what we see, and they don't have. They're banking on Jedrick Wills to save that position.
And honestly, I don't think that you can do that. So, and to your point, league wide, nobody's going to be letting go of anybody that's any good.
So I'm going to get off here. I'm going to check out Seattle's depth chart and see if they might be cutting someone that Dickerson's familiar with. Maybe.
It's a good question, but like it shouldn't be that tough at tackle. You can get him up to speed in a week, right? Enough to play a game.
A professional, yeah, a guy if he's been a professional for any, season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, then probably.
August 27th, yeah. So
12 days.
The question becomes, and if I were them, so the urgency they had when they lost Whippler, to go out and immediately go get Nick Harris with a trade, that's the urgency they should have at left tackle right now.
So who picked up Wheatley? I think Wheatley was just cut by the Patriots, right?
I don't know. We traded him there, but I mean, he was a guy that
I think he got cut.
When?
Last week.
Last year? Last week?
Yeah.
Why is that boy not in here?
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up. Try to figure this out.
Listen, Andrew Berry's got to have a list. Like he's got a list in his pocket at all times of like 5 names for every position, coach, whatever. He's got it at all times, right? Like, okay, they need scouts, pro personnel scouts, whatever. I don't care how many hours it takes. You scour the film, rosters, whatever it is, but you find that guy, that sleeper. You cannot tell me straight to my face that this is as good as you can do across 90-man rosters in the National Football League, that James Hudson is as good as you can do. You cannot tell me that with a straight face.
I wouldn't attempt to. What I'm mad is that we're having this conversation on August 15th, when everything you just said should have happened when they got to Greenbrier, and Wills was no closer to playing than he was before they adjourned from minicamp. Like when you get to that point and you don't have a starting date already in your mind, okay, he'll be back by this date, and we'll roll from there. And then that all had to have already happened.
Cut with an injury designation, and then Barking Brown says he's still on New England's roster.
So they cut him with the injury designation and re-signed him?
I don't know.
Man.
Wheatley apparently on.
I'm not saying there's a solution to getting a starting caliber player, but I'm saying you can do better than James Hudson. That's my challenge to Andrew Berry. You can do better than that.
You have to be able to. You have to be able to, Casey.
Yes.
There's 90 players on 32 teams right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the math on that. 2,700,
Yeah, there's about to be
2,800.
1,500 guys hit the bricks.
Yep. You've got to be able to do better. MC, I'm a little upset. I am. And to be honest, it's not fair just to point the finger at the tackle situation, because they may
No.
figure it out. That's fine, but Zach, it was just sobering to hear that report.
Yeah, I expect a little more positivity. I mean, obviously not to shine any wheels, but just to have seen glimpses of things that you think are a progression for the offense.
And I mean, he did kind of say, you can imagine how it could look. You know what I mean? Like the pieces are there to make it look good. They're just not there yet. And but I think we're far enough along that I expected to hear better than that. And I expected to hear better report on Watson.
Well, and some of the things that I feel good about, right? Like I feel good about David Njoku. Well, he left early today. Like that's not awesome.
Right.
And one of my fears is he gets hurt and you can't even run 11 personnel effectively against 3-4 defenses. That's a problem for me. I like the receiving core. I'm gonna go out on a positive note. I've seen a ton of good stuff out of the receivers. I think they're deep there. I think, there's something that's going to be fun to watch the remainder of preseason. I'm excited to see DTR get a start this week.
Yeah. I saw everybody yelling at me when I said Snoop and then DTR. I guess I said it out of order or whatever. DTR is going to play the first half. Snoop's going to play the second. I apologize to everybody in the chat then. Assuming assuming Kevin makes a great point about the defensive line a couple years ago. But I don't think they saw themselves in a window then. Maybe they did. I don't know. Yeah, look for a clunky offense to improve. Yeah, I mean, it's got to get better, right? And I think it will. It's new.
Everything I'm saying that's negative, just understand I still expect them to win this division. My expectations are high.
Mine too.
The bar's been raised, and it's hard for me to accept mediocre play when I think that they can overcome that. And I just personnel wise, I don't see how they overcome where they're at with left tackle here today.
Yeah. Well, listen, we know the defense is going to be really good.
Yep. Damn straight.
And see, and the thing is, we used to be able to go, and we know we'll be able to run the ball, but we can't say that anymore.
Yeah. Spoiled with Nick Chubb, spoiled with Bill Callahan.
They're gonna have to figure it out. Like if this thing is gonna work the way we envision it, or the way that we think that they can make it work. And listen, I trust Stefanski. I have faith in Stefanski, right? Like, despite how Watson has played at times, he's won almost every start. They've won football games with PJ Walker, with all the guys last year. Now, you'll be playing tougher teams this year and all that stuff and everything.
Not in the beginning, though. I think you can find your way because the schedule opens softer.
Yes.
By the time you get to that point where you're playing harder teams, you have to have raised by then, but gives you a little leeway as long as the defense comes out, lights out, and can buy you some time to develop.
And I think that, if you can just keep him healthy, and because still 2 years, he missed 2 years, and he came back and he played 6 games off of that rust. And then he came back and would he play 3, then missed 2, then played 1, then played 3, or whatever it was last year, right? But it was chopped up and then he missed again. So like he still, since he's missed 2 years of play, is yet to play any stretch of football beyond 6 games.
Yeah.
That was the first 6 back.
Yeah.
Right? So if I could get 10 games of him, because we see him start to figure it out.
Yeah, you've
If
seen
you
the
could
flashes.
if you give me 10 games of him healthy and Stefanski and Dorsey and them all working together, I am very confident that would lead to a highly successful offense.
I need that large of a sample size just so I can know who he is.
Yeah.
Instead of just guessing that but if you can't string it together, you can't get that large sample size.
If you
It's still going to be living in mystery.
year,
We're going into year 3, not knowing if he can be the guy, and you need to know if he can be the guy.
it's not like you can do.
We should be celebrating. Brad JOK signed a contract.
Yeah, good extension.
Celebrating
He
right
got
now.
a lot. Did he not get a lot less than you thought he was going to get?
No, remember, because we talked about it. It was like earlier when we first started.
Yeah, but he got less than
12
Queen.
to 15 is probably where he's going to be, and then we're like, it's probably going to be 18 to 20 if they wait. They got in early. Yeah. It's still less than I thought he would have gotten, but
I thought he was going to get more than Patrick Queen.
Yes, for sure. He got what we thought he would get at the start of the entire conversation before we start seeing these contracts come in. Like, well, he's got to get paid more than so and so and so and so. He's probably going to be slotted under Fred Warner, but above Queen. And
yeah, that's where we had him. Mm-hmm. But he came in under Queen, and once again, it's the snaps. It's how many snaps he's played. That's why he didn't get the and his size probably, but like. All those guys play 100% snaps.
Yeah,
he's gonna this year, which I think they kind
of
got
to be in the high 90s.
Yeah, which is why they met. I think they met in the middle ground because initially when Jack came out with his first, Duffin came out with his first projection on this, it was 30 for 3. It was 10 a year.
So 39.
And then as we began to look at the rest of the market and you saw Queen and some of the guys that got deals this offseason get 13 to 17 or whatever it was, I thought that he would get like 15. Right? Didn't we say 15 to 18
15
or whatever?
18. Yeah, that's where we ended up. And I think that if he plays this whole season out, and I think that's where he would have landed, probably 18 to 20, to be honest. Because I see a monster season coming from him. What do we got brewing?
I was just reading some of this stuff. This MC says this is scary. Sounds like we're trying to talk ourselves into it again.
I mean, there's a high base level of talent on this team. I don't think you're really talking yourself into it. Just trusting in the personnel, and you got to trust that your defense can be what they look. I don't expect this defense to hold teams into the same kind of yardage they did last year, but I expect them to be better in the red zone. I expect them to. I mean, I think they can hold teams to 18 points. 18. That's the bar.
Yeah.
And if that happens.
They're due a ton of turnover regression to the mean. They were horribly unlucky.
Yeah, for sure.
In the turnover department, on offense and defense. I mean, so they're due a massive swing of regression at some point back to the mean. And if we could see that this year, that would be great because, a couple games in a row of getting even on that luck would win you a couple games.
Yeah, especially with that personnel. Yep.
Yeah.
I come out of this thinking we're going to be relying more on the defense than I thought we would have to, just to, you know what I mean? So, but the offense still has to find their way, and they don't have too many games to figure it out before you get into you open up with Dallas. That's going to be tough. They're going to be okay, man. They're not world beaters, but they have pieces and they're good in areas where you're not. So it's going to be close there. But then you got Washington, you got New York, you got Vegas. You go to Philly in week 6. You better have your shit together by the time you get to Philadelphia in week 6.
Well, we know this, right? That Stefanski has found a lot of success with a lot of different quarterbacks, including winning success with Watson. So, to your boy's point, 3 weeks, right? And you got to clean it up. I think you can tell this. Like, Stefanski's demeanor has been weird, I think, the past 2 days. He didn't look happy. And I thought it was
he looked frustrated.
Like Mike Hall and everything else going on, right? Like, probably like a combination of that, the left tackle stuff. Like, we can't accomplish what we want to because this, that, the other, this is total speculation. And I probably shouldn't even go down this road, but that's what we do here. Jed Wills has been criticized for his work ethic, right, in the past.
And it's very fair criticism.
Is that a chance? Is there a chance that his rehabilitation has reflected that lack of work ethic as well?
I think you have to ask the question. Obviously, we'll never know that answer, but it's a very fair question given what we've seen on the field. Did he attack his rehab like Nick Chubb did? Doubt it. Highly doubt it.
Does he want to be out there right now?
His contract's guaranteed, right?
Yeah, he's in a contract year, though.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't like going down the roads of speculating whether a player loves the game or not.
Yeah, it's not even about loving the game. It's like, does he want to? Like, it's a contract year. You would think everything in him would be saying, I got to get out there, get healthy, and play my ass off this year because this is the paycheck that changes your life forever. Second contract. Serge says the fact that you have to ask that says everything.
It's 100% a fair question to speculate. Now, it is just speculation, and we'll never know the answer. No one's going to come out and say, yeah, he half-assed it.
No. It's fair, though.
But like we heard Dewan say that Jed was just behind him, and that was months ago, and Dewan's been on the field at least for a while now. So, like,
what a misleading bunch of crap
Jack
that
Conklin
interview
climbing
was.
up the pit, like Bane. How long ago was that?
Conklin says he's fine on Instagram. That was at least a month ago, right? Before the Greenbrier, a week before the Greenbrier.
Yes, it was a month ago.
Mean,
it was when the videos started popping off of Chubb doing stuff, and it was like he kind of piggybacked off that momentum.
Will points out when you asked Dr. Jesse Morse what could explain the discrepancy between Will's and DeWan's recoveries, he did mention mental toughness as a possibility. Yeah. It's
toughness, pre-existing injuries that were complicated by it. The one thing that doesn't add up is the heavier player came back sooner. Heavier by a significant amount. That typically doesn't happen if it's the same injury, same timeline. Not much different in age. Jed's not an old guy by any means, but
kind of what we're trying to figure out here, Serge. Exactly what we're talking about right there. So Conklin is fine. Does he have the wheels to be serviceable at left tackle? But he's played a long career at right tackle.
Yeah,
I think he last played left tackle in college. Yeah.
Yeah, 2015, something like that.
Could he move over there in a bind? I don't know, but they should have been, in my opinion, they should have been working DeWand out over there this whole time so that he wouldn't have to come back in a week and have to figure that out. You would at least have that option.
Mm-hmm.
I think this comes down to your pro personnel department and Andrew Barry. They may have to trade. You got to trade better than Hudson, right?
Yeah.
And you may have to go out and trade for that player.
Yeah. So then you start
before
thinking
they
about
get
what
cut.
pieces could net you that. What pieces could net you a serviceable offensive lineman, left tackle? Like it's a high
fifth?
price tag, brother. That is a high price tag.
Maybe. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying, like, yeah, I know I froze. I'm sorry. Something happened with my computer. I apologize. Can you see me now?
Yeah, you're there, man.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying there are guys that will be on a cut bubble, right? I'm not even talking about serviceable. I'm saying better than Hudson is not even
Hudson's
serviceable.
on the cut bubble. Like Hudson, he's not rosterable in my opinion.
He should not be on anybody's bubble.
Not ours.
And I know, but like I'm saying, like, so if you look around the NFL, they should be able to identify a player who plays tackle who is either going to get cut or somebody's going to try to sneak him through the practice squad, and then you offer them like a sixth or a pick swap or whatever before cut
Or
down
Huntley
day
or whatever you got to do to get that guy.
to make sure you get him. Like the same thing that happened with Wheatley. Like New England identified Wheatley as an extra tackle, right? That the Browns had at the time that wasn't going to make the roster, but was potentially decent or could be good. And now the Browns have to identify that somewhere and make a move. The same urgency you went out and got your backup center needs to be applied to this situation, in my opinion. And it's weird that the urgency is not there.
Unless
or doesn't appear.
They're swinging at things and not connecting, but they got Nick Harris like that. I mean, it was.
Or doesn't appear to be, right?
No,
there doesn't appear to be.
Like I said, I'm at the point where words don't mean anything. I'm following actions. And by their lack of actions, it appears as if they're like willing to roll this out there.
Yeah. All right. Listen, I still think the Browns will be very good. I still think they can win the division. I still think this can be a really special year. This was just, I think it's our job to find out what is happening, right? So
and asking uncomfortable questions.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey guys, is the fact Barry has not made a move, this is from Kelly Black, mean that he expects them both back soon? That's kind of the question that that's kind of what I've been telling myself all along, Kelly, is that the lack of urgency means they obviously are expecting him to be back any day.
The cavalry is on its way.
But the indicators of how close they are to playing are not aligning with that.
The vibes are atrocious.
Yeah, the things you would be looking to see to say they're close or whatever, I'm not seeing, even though Stefanski said he's close today, based on what Zach said he did, he doesn't sound close.
We don't even know about Jack.
We don't know.
We don't even know about the guy. He's been outside once.
Yeah, he was outside one time, which is even stranger.
That doesn't sound close to me.
No. But listen, we're not here. It's not, code red. It's not emergency. It's just we're talking through what could be a potential issue. Yeah. So there it is. You got to get these guys back, or they should probably be making a move of some kind to bring in a player. Just a player, even if it's a swing
A
It can't be.
rosterable offensive lineman.
Yeah, exactly. A rosterable tackle. Even if it's a right tackle, you think you can, transition him to left. Although they appear to be allergic to that philosophy.
Apparently, yeah, they're because they got a right tackle from college playing left.
So there's where we are. Hope that SGP and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network guys were helpful to you in your fantasy drafts as you partake in fantasy football season. And you can, I'm a big best ball guy because you don't have to manage your. Do you play best ball, Case?
No.
Do you know what? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see the commercials.
Yeah, it's great, man. You just draft your team and you let them sit. It's fun. There's some good strategy to it. Yeah, Connie, rethink your QB strategy. Hopefully they were helpful there. And then, those guys are great. I advise you to go listen to that pod or watch it.
Follow on Twitter.
Follow on Twitter at Gambling Podcast. Sean at Sean T Green and at Kramer Centric, and that's Sean stacking the money green and Kramer Ryan real money Kramer. Pardon me. I think I'm getting sick. I think I'm coming down with something.
It's this offensive line, man.
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah. It's something. But yeah, like I'm all stuffed up in my throat and stuff. So look for a new show that I'm coming out with here in the next day or so. It should be fun. You know my articles if you read it all called Things I Think I Know. Coming out with a show. Things I Think I Know. Look for it on Fridays. So, just that's a little tidbit here. Casey, how fast can you get into football shape? Says MC.
Do we have a time machine?
1.21 gigawatts.
We're going to need at least 1.21 gigawatts to get me back to the year of our Lord 2004. That's probably the last time I'd have been in football shape. Maybe.
We don't need roads.
Not happening, Captain.
We don't need roads.
This problem's beyond me.
This is everybody right now after watching this show.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Can you hear that?
No.
You can't hear any of that?
Nope, not a bit.
Why? I wonder.
I don't know. Can they hear it in the chat?
21 gigawatts.
Great Scott.
They can hear it.
Faster than Will's. That's good.
They can hear it.
Good for them. Yeah, I don't know.
You just can't hear it.
Yeah, it's old man problems.
Why can't you hear it?
I don't know.
Well, figure it out.
Why can't I hear it?
Because you're not wearing headphones.
Yeah, I'm not wearing my cans, man. I can start doing it. I can start looking goofy.
That is a disgusting act.
No? Still nothing?
Yeah, nothing. I hear my dog scratching. That's all I hear.
Erroneous on both counts.
I got some good ones here. I still haven't put I have to get a power surge connector.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I need an all new laptop to put the mixer board that I bought for this laptop.
It's not compatible with your laptop?
It's not strong enough. It's not new enough or powerful enough to handle that and the camera I bought. So I have a brand new camera and a mixer board here that I can't use with this laptop. It's coming, though. It's coming. Yeah. You said it, Kelly. You said it.
I'm jealous they got to hear it and I couldn't.
What?
I'm jealous that they could hear it and I couldn't.
Yeah. Well. Let's get out of here. All right. Appreciate you guys watching as always. 1.21 gigawatts. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Don't need them.
We're
going.
Thank you for watching. We don't need James Hudson. Where we're going, we don't need James Hudson. This has been a long and fantastic edition. I hope you enjoyed it all. Big thanks to Zack Jackson from The Athletic and Sean Green, Ryan Kramer of the Sports Gambling Podcast. Huge thanks to Casey Kinnaman at Casey_Kinnaman on Twitter. Make sure you keep it locked. Follow him. Hit like, hit subscribe on your way out. Tell a friend to keep it locked in at the OBR wall-to-wall coverage of everything Browns. All eyes on Cleveland every week. You know it. For Casey Kinnaman, my name is Brad Ward. We are out.